Have you ever wondered about the purpose or the practices of Lent, and does any of it really matter, or is it just some great religious language to rope you into doing something you really don't want to do? So here's the thing about these practices and the purpose of Lent. The purpose is it's a period of time where we're supposed to focus on connecting with the love of Jesus. All right, so there's a sense here of, sometimes we get busy with our life, we're going along, and we need some time to focus. We need to spend some time examining, taking stock of. And so Lent becomes this practice leading up to Easter of, okay, let me take a look at my life. Where am I not connecting to the love of Jesus? Where am I connecting? Is there something I can do, let go of? Is there something new I can practice? But at the very center of it, we have to understand there is the love of Christ. There is the love of God that is to be at the center of our lives. And are we experiencing that in all of the realms that we live, or are we not? And if we're like, well, yeah, every now and then there's love, but there's a whole lot of places where there's not, we then get this moment of going, okay, so how do we begin to access this love or connect it? And so this leads us to a discussion immediately about God's grace and the grace that Christ, that Jesus lives into his life, that he has grace through his death, and he brings grace to us through the resurrection. And this sense of what is this grace that we keep talking about? What is it that helps facilitate love? And grace is something you cannot earn, just as you cannot earn God's love. Grace means that we are favored and chosen. You may be like, oh, no, not that word. To be in relationship with God, we are chosen, we are loved, all are chosen and loved by God as God's creation. And so we're able to be in relationship. We're able to access forgiveness and mercy. That's part of grace. We're able to access kindness and empathy. That's part of grace. And that it's not like we did something to earn it. We don't have to earn it. Instead, we can experience it in our lives and then share it with one another. And this is where the whole practices of Lent. So if we're trying to be focused upon, all right, how is God's grace part of my life? How is God's love part of my life or not? Where do I experience it or not? Here, the conversation of practices. What do I need to let go of? And what do I need to do? So think about it like this. What do I need to let go of? Do you need to let go of maybe anger, resentment, disappointment, expectations? Do we need to let go of those things that maybe are so unhealthy that we get wrapped up in fear? It's not necessarily, so often we hear, right, people have given up sugar for Lent. Okay, well, that can harken back to what are the things that help us live healthy, that help us to understand God's grace in our lives, that what are those things we need to let go of that keep us from experiencing God's grace? And then on the other side, what are the things we need to be doing to experience God's grace, to be paying attention to that? Is it serving others? Do we need to be calling up people? Do we need to be a listening ear? Do we need to be studying, paying attention, becoming more self-aware? Are there certain practices we need to take up during this time that can help us focus on God's grace and how God's grace isn't just for us, but is for every single person around us? And so not only is it a practice of how do we experience it in this time, but how do I help someone else experience God's grace? So as you can see or hear or pay, Lent is not just this period of time of, well, did you give up sugar this year or did you decide to start exercising? Those are more like New Year's resolutions. And they can be part of, but really this is a time about what is healthy that we need to let go of. And it can be physical, spiritual, mental, that helps us know God's love, God's grace, and what are those things we need to be doing that are healthy physically, mentally, spiritually. that can help us sit and enjoy and be at peace, to know that God's grace is covering us in kindness and in empathy, is trying to bring us to a place of peace and greater understanding of God's love. So I hope that helps in discerning. And maybe if you decide to take on something or leave something behind during this period, my hope is that whatever you choose to do, that you will experience God's love, God's grace this day and every day through this time. Have a good one.